It's Halloween, and a nightmare is beginning.
That's when the hair on the back of your neck stands up.
The mystery deepens when police discover a second victim.
Over here!
He's getting out of here by the minute.
Lieutenant Joe Kenda finds himself face to face with pure evil.
He's essentially torturing these people before the kill, like cats playing with mice before they eat them.
When someone says, I'm going to kill you, it'd be in your interest to believe it. When someone feels threatened, emotions become unpredictable. How threatened are they? Emotions can take you to some very dark places. There's one thing that never changes: murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim. If you kill, I will find you.
It's the night before Halloween, and the streets of Colorado Springs are crawling with teenagers. There's an air of danger, both real and imagined, lurking around every corner.
There's all kinds of mischievous stuff going on. People will get their yards TP'd, and teenagers will throw eggs at people's houses. You never know what's going to happen.
– 17-year-old James Horton has opted for a low-key evening at home.
I was watching a pretty scary movie on TV and trying to see how late I could stay up. Everybody else in the house was asleep.
He sees this person described as a zombie type person walking through the yard.
I had friends that we were always playing tricks on each other, and so I thought maybe it was somebody that was just kind of messing around with me. I went over to the door, and I was being real cautious because of the freakiness of the situation.
From the front door, James doesn't see anything unusual.
The young, dumb teenager, I still went ahead and opened the door.
Oh my God. What happened? Are you okay?
When he turned his head, I noticed there was blood on the back of his neck, head area.
Dad, get out of here now! We need help!
Across town, CSPD headquarters is buzzing with activity.
Hey, Lieutenant, get this. We just processed 2 vampires and a werewolf for property destruction. Shaping up to be a long night.
Tell me about it. If we break all night.
2 or 3 days before Halloween, the activity level jumps dramatically. People drinking and wearing costumes to parties. Everyone is very busy. As a result, so are the police.
Hey, Lieutenant,
Jeez.
It's a common thing in law enforcement that there's always the pranksters around and they take advantage of everything, including Halloween.
Copy that.
Lieutenant, we just got a call of a shooting on the southeast side of town.
So much for that break.
I'm in the simple act of trying to enjoy a cup of coffee, but in my business it isn't simple.
The house in question sits along an otherwise empty stretch of road.
This is practically in the middle of nowhere.
How you doing, Lieutenant?
Hey, Brian. So what we got?
We had a young male with multiple gunshot wounds to the head. He's been transported to St. Francis.
we're able to identify this individual. He's a 17-year-old high school student by the name of Benny Messina.
Any witnesses? The homeowner and his son. According to 911 operator, the son observed a zombie-like figure approaching the house and then collapsed here on the porch.
When I walk up in the front porch of this home, there is blood. which I expected to see. But there's also some drag marks off the porch into an area of a bush in the yard. How'd they get there?
Yeah, about that. There's some inconsistencies in the homeowner's story. He told the officers that the victim came to the porch and collapsed, but the paramedics found him down in the bushes.
Kid certainly didn't drag himself. Where's this guy?
This guy leaning over by the patrol car over here.
I want to talk to him.
Obviously, talking with Mr. Horton and getting the explanation of what happened on his front porch is important to us.
Mr. Horton, I'm Lieutenant Kenda.
You know, Tim.
Now, you might tell me what happened here this evening?
I was in the bedroom when it all started.
I know it was past midnight. My son hollered up and
Crashed. He was on the porch.
Get in there, call 911.
According to Mr. Horton, at that point he began inspecting the young man's injuries and quickly made an alarming discovery.
He has a bullet protruding from his neck.
And that bullet let me know that he had to have immediate attention or he wasn't going to make it.
So why'd you move him?
Retired military, and my instincts were telling me we had to act quickly.
I did not want him to die on my watch. And if I could get the situation under control, then he may have a chance to live.
I think for anybody it'd be just so shocking because you'd wondered who'd shot this person, on close behind him.
We also moved him behind the bushes, protect ourselves and him, just in case the shooter was still around. Come on, help me. We've got to move him. We've got to move him over here. Easy. All right, I'm gonna grab his shoulders. You're gonna grab his feet, all right?
Lift.
And he says, drag him off the porch and put him in those bushes in case whoever did this comes back.
Ready? Down.
The idea being to protect that victim and protect his domicile from any further attack.
James, get out.
Go. It's completely logical, his explanation for what he did.
No, I appreciate your help.
No problem.
Now that detectives know why Benny Messina was moved, they return to a more basic question.
Where did he come from?
Lieutenant, there's a distinct blood trail right over here.
Grab your flashlight and see where it takes us.
We're able to identify a blood trail leading up to the front door. Backtracking that, we hope to be able to identify an exact crime scene.
The blood trail continues for approximately 30 yards before it abruptly stops near the road.
Did he even shot here?
Well, it's hard to say. Something happened here, though.
You're looking for exactly why this location. Is this the perfect spot for a body dump?
We notice near the blood trail where it ends, there is evidence of a car losing control. I believe there was a car involved that is long gone. Undoubtedly the suspect vehicle. The most likely scenario is our suspect or suspects shot this kid somewhere else, brought him here just to dump him. Except obviously he's not dead. Our victim stands up and starts walking toward the nearest light he sees, which is the Horton house.
He now has a possible means of tracking down the shooter.
Let's collect some dirt samples for evidence. And can you get some castings of the tire track?
Tire casts are almost better than fingerprints. The system maintains records on every tire made and sold in North America, so we can identify those tires from the tread line.
As CSIs collect the tire casts, Kenda heads to St. Francis Hospital, hoping Benny Messina has survived and could perhaps shed light on the identity of the shooter.
Excuse me, I'm here to talk to Benny Messina.
I'm sorry, he's in no condition to see anybody.
Benny's in bad shape. He's got 2 gunshot wounds. One apparently is just a graze, but the other one is quite serious.
We're actually prepping him for surgery right now.
According to hospital staff, the bullet entered the back of Benny's head, but miraculously never reached his brain.
It would have killed him without question had it penetrated the bone. However, it ricocheted. The bullet missed everything that was vital. If you placed odds on this, it's 1 in a million.
In the hallway, Kenda encounters Benny Messina's father, who has just received word that his son has been shot.
Mr. Messina?
Yes, sir.
I'm Lieutenant Kenda. I'm handling your son's case. I might have asked you a few questions.
Of course.
He's already been told he's going to be fine. That takes a huge emotional edge away from him.
Can you tell me a little bit about Benny?
Yeah, basically, too. I have a lot of friends in school.
Do you have any idea where he went tonight?
Benny's father said the last time he saw Benny was earlier that evening, and it was Benny's intention to go to a Halloween party. But Benny's father did not know where the party was or who was having the party.
But as Kenda speaks with Benny's father,
Lieutenant Kenda.
What is it?
the case takes an unexpected turn.
One of the nurses who's been attending our victim here drops a bombshell.
We have another victim.
What do you mean?
And that really surprised me. How do you know that? I don't like surprises. So we're investigating the shooting of Benny Messina when some nurse announces there's a second victim that we know nothing about.
What do you mean there's another shooting victim?
When we were getting Vinny ready to go to sleep for surgery, he was telling us about his friend.
It's Robert.
She said when they're starting to drift off, he kept asking about his friend Robert.
Wait, Vinny, what is it? What's wrong?
He got shot too.
So now we have an enormous complication that we know nothing about. Who's your friend Robert? And could finding them save their life?
He gave
The police immediately. We have heard nothing about a medical call at Hancock and Circle.
Lieutenant Kenda, dispatch. It appears we have another shooting victim at Circle and Hancock.
So we sent patrol units looking for Robert Unknown.
10-4 Kenda.
You're definitely working against time here if they're still alive. They could die just for the fact that nobody got to them in time to save them.
While Benny Messina undergoes surgery, Kenda joins responding officers at the site of the second shooting and quickly realizes they are facing an enormous challenge.
We're surrounded by rural terrain. It's dark as you can't see your hand in front of your foot. So how do we find Robert?
Hey, we've searched the immediate area in this intersection. We just can't find anything here.
All right, we're going to spread out and do a grid search. We got a lot of ground to cover. We're losing time.
Yes, sir.
You want to be able to get your team together and start a reasonably fast but thorough search of the area?
Copy that.
The police are on high alert. You want to find that person, and you've just got your fingers crossed that it's going to be a happy ending.
The team scans the area, but a lengthy search yields no sign of the alleged victim.
Sir, I'm checked here and here.
But then, one member of the search party radios Kenda with a possible lead.
Hold it, hold it.
Officer Price for Kenda.
Go for Kenda.
I think I found something. I'm on the dirt access road 50 yards up Circle Drive, headed northbound.
10-4, I'll be right there. Okay, keep searching. Good.
An officer notices that there is one barricade that was placed to block access to an area, and that barricade had been moved.
Looks like somebody moved it just enough to get the vehicle through.
Well, check this out.
And there were tire tracks in the dirt.
Lieutenant Kenda, I need all responders report to the access road off Circle Drive. I'll be aware there is tire tread evidence. Let's try to preserve the evidence, but finding our victims priority one.
Copy that.
Yeah. We've got to start being careful now to make sure we're not becoming evidence eradicators.
Robert! Robert!
So now we have a place to focus.
Robert! Over here! I can't find a pulse. We got a man down. Need paramedics up there ASAP.
That gets everybody's attention really fast.
Robert! Robert, can you hear me? Robert, can you hear me? What's going on?
We bring a medical team in there. I looked at that kid when they loaded him in the gurney. And I'm not a doctor, but I have looked at literally thousands. So at that moment, my emotions are revolving around the fact that we're not done yet. We've got now 2 victims. This is getting uglier by the minute. All right, it's officially a crime scene. Still know where the other victim was shot. It could have been here also. So we need a thorough search of every inch of the site. All right? We start looking around this area where the body has been discovered. ultimately is nothing except a bloodstain where he had been laying.
Still, Kenda and the team are hopeful the tire tracks may help answer one vital question.
It was the same car at both of these scenes.
I bet good money these are from the same vehicle.
You thinking Benny and Robert were both shot at this location?
Exactly.
This is Detective Ritz. Can I get a CSI over to the entrance by the sign? We're gonna need some more tire casts.
Our cases start to come together, at least tying these two scenes together.
I'm getting some sense of this in my own head. This is malice aforethought, scheme, and design. The plan is to kill two people. Let's take them to a remote area and shoot them. The elements of first-degree murder.
As the sun rises over Colorado Springs, Kenda checks in on the two victims.
Excuse me. I want to check on the status of Benny Messina.
Benny is out of surgery. They removed the slug, and it is a .22 caliber bullet.
We believe he will make a full recovery. He's still under the effects of the sedation, but he should be able to receive visitors later today.
Benny's out of the picture because of his anesthesia. So now what about Robert?
Unfortunately, Robert's a different story. He was pronounced dead on arrival.
The deceased is identified as 18-year-old Robert Costello, a high school senior.
Robert was born in Germany but was raised in Colorado Springs. He's a good kid, well-educated kid, does very well in school, and has a part-time job in a bicycle shop.
Did they have a cause of death?
Yes, it was from a single gunshot wound from a .22 caliber. We've notified Robert's family and his stepmother. Cindy ID'd the body.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Kenda hopes that a conversation with Robert Costello's family will offer some additional insight.
You are now faced with a mother who knows her son isn't coming home anymore. You have to be extremely careful. You try to understand their circumstances and their pain. But at the same time, you have an obligation to investigate the death of their son.
Mrs. Costello? I'm Lieutenant Kenda. I know it's a difficult time. I need your help in order to find out what happened to Robert. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
I understand, it's okay.
She's very emotional.
He's good friends with Robert. They both cut her hairs in high school. They're always together, but I honestly didn't know what they were up to tonight. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. That's our job to find out. Do you know if Robert had any enemies?
And she becomes even more distressed.
There's been threats made against my entire family. Of course I was concerned, but I just never think somebody could actually go through with it.
Now that rings a very strong bell. Who could it be making those kinds of threats?
Well, you don't.
Somebody who's willing to end Robert's life, probably. We're investigating the shootings of Benny Messina, who has survived the attack, and Robert Costello, who did not survive. And Robert's stepmother tells me my entire family has been threatened, and that raises an eyebrow.
My other son, Colin, he's Robert's stepbrother. He's been having some trouble with another boy in his class.
She reports that her son Colin tells her that he is threatened directly by a person whose name is Brian Cast, who tells Colin Costello that you and your entire family are dead.
If I had been Robert's stepmom, at that point I would have been terrified.
Well, did Brian Cast make good on his threat by shooting Colin's older brother Robert? And was Benny Messina merely collateral damage? People often say because it's a kid to another kid that it's an idle threat. But a kid will pull a trigger faster than an adult will. So when a kid says to somebody, I'm going to kill you, it'd be in your interest to believe it.
Later that day, Brian Cast's mother brings her son to the station for questioning.
Brian, thanks for coming in. Have a seat.
This better not take all day. We find him to be standoffish, kind of a smart aleck at times. Doesn't really appreciate the seriousness of the nature that we're there for.
We have reported you making threats against your classmate, Colin Costello, and his family.
I might have said something, so I didn't do anything.
And Mr. Cast, you are here because we are investigating a first-degree murder and an attempt at another one.
It would be in your best interest to pay attention to what I had to say.
Listen, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I'm concerned. You just admitted making threats against the Costellos. And now Colin's brother's dead.
Now he looks like what he is, a little kid.
I'm not saying those things, but I was just bluffing. Colin was picking on me, and I just needed something to get him to back off.
Why don't you tell me what instigated the entire thing?
Colin and I both play soccer. A few weeks ago, a bunch of us were having a practice match. Jimmy!
He goes on to say that he is tripped during a soccer game by Colin. They have words.
What the hell was that for?
Colin's friends come to Colin's aid and announce they're going to kick this kid's ass. He becomes afraid.
I knew the only way to get him off my back was if I turned the tables on them. You have one finger on me and you'll regret it. You and your whole family are dead.
So he makes that threat to defend himself from what he thinks is a group of people who want to hurt him.
I swear, it was all an act. I don't know anything about the shooting. It's the honest truth. Do you believe me?
So comfortable. I'm gonna make a phone call.
So let's talk to Colin and let's confirm that what Brian tells me is in fact the truth, and then we can close the matter. When we speak to Colin about this, he freely admits he never told his mother about tripping the kid at soccer because he'd get yelled at. It's much better to report to your mother that you are a victim.
Well, Brian, your story checks out. You're free to go.
So now we've eliminated our first and only suspect. Brian Cast is out the window.
With Benny Messina still recovering from surgery, Kenda returns to the hospital and tracks down Benny's mother, Martha.
My purpose in discussing things with the mother is obvious. Mothers tend to know everything about their sons.
Can't think of anyone that would want to harm them.
Just as she knows a man whose name is Jose Fernandez Sr., who is a male in his 40s, and she's heard Jose Fernandez Sr. threaten Benny over the phone. Now, why is he threatening a 17-year-old?
Kenda learns that Jose's son, Joe Jr., was good friends with Benny and Robert.
And she says that Benny, Robert, and Joe Fernandez had gotten into a little bit of trouble at the high school.
According to Martha, a few months ago, the three friends decided to skip class.
You should just skip the rest of the day.
I agree.
Guys, oh my gosh, check this out.
It's the teacher's car that was left in the parking lot of school with the windows down, and the keys were in it, on the dash.
Dude, you know, it's just for a little bit. Nobody's even gonna notice.
They see it, they take it, they go to lunch, they drive around.
Steal a car of another student. They stole a teacher's car.
And they abandon the car, and they return to school and go back to class if nothing happened. It's a classic joyride.
Except all three young men got caught and were arrested and charged with theft.
This was just stupid teenage boy stuff. Give them a little space, give them an opportunity, and a lot of times they'll use it to its absolute worst advantage.
Benny Messina's offered a deal, and he takes it. He's going to get a summons and complaint and probation. Costello takes the same deal.
Their friend, Joe Jr., chose to fight the charges. However, as part of Benny and Robert's plea deal, they agreed to testify against Joe Jr. His father, Jose Fernandez Sr., was furious.
Goes from a telephone conversation threatening Benny over this testimony business to Mr. Fernandez Sr. showing up at the Messina home.
According to Martha, 2 weeks earlier, an inebriated Jose Sr. came to their house, pounding on the door and threatening her husband, Thomas.
Open the door! Hey, what's going on here? Are you really gonna let your son tell lies in court about Joe?
Listen, buddy, he will testify in court, all the truth.
Your kid's a liar. My Joe didn't do anything. He didn't steal that car with them. Benny better get that straight if he knows what's good for him.
He was going to protect his kid, whatever's necessary. Why would a father go to the extreme of threatening people about testifying against his son for a simple auto theft case? I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Intrigued, Kenda sends a couple of officers to the Fernandez home to speak with Jose Sr.
In the meantime, I'll do a little digging on my own into Jose Sr.'s background.
Lieutenant, here's that file I requested. There's not much in it, though.
Okay, thank you.
We were shocked to learn that Fernandez Sr. had never been arrested by anybody for any reason. He was a cabinet maker by trade. It was viewed by his supervisors as an excellent worker, one of the best at the company.
The more we look into this, it's kind of like, is this guy really somebody who went out and killed somebody?
20 minutes later, Kenda gets a call that could answer that question.
334 to Lieutenant Kenda.
Go for Kenda.
Hey, Lieutenant, we're at the Fernandez residence right now. And you're going to want to see this.
There's a vehicle out there and it has what appears to be blood staining on it.
10-4, I'll be right there.
High velocity bus better comes from one thing, gunshot. There is no doubt in my mind that this is the car. We're investigating the death of Robert Costello. We have developed a new suspect, Jose Fernandez Sr., whose son was a participant in an auto theft with the two victims. I sent officers to his house to question him. They observed high-velocity blood spatter on the bumper of the family car.
So what do you got?
We've not talked to the residents yet.
Okay, I got a search warrant. Let's go.
The officers try a normal knock and they get no response. So we then move to the police knock. And it's Jose Fernandez Sr.
He sees our guns and immediately slams the door. That's when the hair on the back of your neck stands up. Is he going to get guns and start shooting it out with us?
Police, open the door, Jose. Let's do this the easy way.
We inform him that we're investigating a homicide, and his family rides sitting in the driveways, leaving with us by warrant.
Jose, open the door slowly, where I can see your hand. Hand. This is ridiculous. You can't do this. He's got no right.
Actually, we do, Mr. Fernandez. Now stay right here while men search your house.
Dad, what's going on?
And out comes Jose Fernandez Jr.
Never mind, go back to your room.
Actually, Joe, I want you to stay here with us.
So the first question we ask is, do you have a gun in this house?
No.
So you're saying neither of you own a gun, and we're not going to find one in this house?
Absolutely not.
No.
Hey, Lieutenant.
So that's not your gun? Well, since both of you lied to me, both of you are going to go downtown until we sort this out. Go ahead and come.
Turn around.
So I give instructions to remove and preserve the vehicle for evidence gathering. And now I have a lot to discuss with this father and son duo.
Back at the station, Kenda is seated with a much more composed Jose Fernandez Sr.
I have a few theories about what happened to those two kids. But I'd like to hear the truth out of your own mouth.
Sure. I've got nothing to hide.
He has a very simple story. He was home asleep and knows nothing, and doesn't have anything else to say.
We've got a report that you recently threatened a minor, Benny Messina.
I never threatened anyone. I just asked him to tell the truth about my son.
And what was that?
That he's innocent. He's not a car thief. He's a great kid.
Mr. Fernandez immediately puts both oars in the water and begins to row across the lake. Everybody in the world is lying except Mr. Fernandez.
Well, the one thing you can't deny is that
He even handled the gun.
Well, if that's the case, it leads me to believe it belongs to your son.
No, absolutely not.
Settle down.
Jose Sr. just absolutely could not accept even really a pretty minor judgment that his kid was not a great kid.
Would you be willing to do a gunshot residue test?
Sure.
We do a GSR test on Fernandez Sr. to show whether he fired or handled a handgun in the past 24 hours or so.
Kenda is hopeful the GSR test will cement Jose Sr. as the shooter.
When we are able to conduct that test, we come up with the negative results.
So Fernandez Sr., despite his bravado, certainly we have him being an astounding liar, but we don't have him pulling a trigger.
With Jose Sr. ruled out as possible shooter, Kenda Kenda turns his attention to Joe Jr.
Fernandez Jr. is different than his father in the sense that he does have a criminal past. It's a minor criminal past. It's petty offenses.
Relax, your dad's not here. I just want to get your side of the story, okay?
Okay, sure. And he says he had been with Benny and Robert earlier that evening, met him at a 7-Eleven, and they had a couple of beers.
We were just out talking for a little bit, and then I left and took off and went home. I don't know what they did after that.
And that's the whole story.
Yeah. Do you really think I'd hurt my friends?
Well, I'd like to get a couple swabs of your hands.
All right.
Officer?
We take the GSR kit from Joe Jr. after explaining to him what it is. And you could see it in his face. Like, uh-oh, he knows that that's going to be positive.
Sir, actually, I do have something I need to tell you. I remembered something. I went target shooting this morning, so that test might come back positive.
Oh, really? With a gun you don't have? He just looks at me. He says, well, there was this other kid I know. What other kid?
I don't know.
You know a lot, do you? They come back with a test result. They're positive. And now, little Mr. Arrogant is scared to death. When I was about to go after him about all the lies,
the hospital called Benny Messina's been cleared to give his statement. All right, come on the way.
now Benny being awake is a lot more important to me. As I was leaving that room, I looked at Joe Jr. and I said, you know, when you shoot people, you gotta make sure they're dead. We have confronted to talk to a living victim, a rarity in these cases.
After questioning both Joe Jr. and Jose Sr., Kenda heads back to the hospital to speak with Benny Messina. Kenda's hopeful Benny can spell out exactly what happened the night of the shooting.
Lieutenant Kenda, I'm sorry about what happened.
His neck, of course, is heavily bandaged, and he's distressed over the death of his friend. But he's willing and able to tell me what happened.
Well, all this trouble kind of started when we stole the teacher's car. I don't know why Joe was denying it. If he would have just confessed, like me and Robert, we'd probably just get probation too.
So Joe Jr. was angry at you for testifying?
Oh no, I mean, he told me that he knew why we were doing this, like he understood it, but his dad was still really pissed at us.
Want to walk me through what happened that night?
He says that he and his friend, Robert, are making a coffin in Benny's garage for a Halloween party they've been invited to.
Okay, do it. This is so sweet.
Dude, this is awesome.
They're laughing about death, and little do they know that Halloween's going to get very real for them in a short amount of time.
Oh, it's going to scare a lot of kids.
They're getting ready to leave.
Hello?
They get called by Jose Jr. Wants to get together.
According to Benny, a few hours later, they met up with Joe Jr. at the party.
So, what do you guys want to do? I was thinking we could just drive around and see what's going on.
Parents want me home by midnight.
Screw that. Let's get out of here.
They ended up off Circle and Hancock in a new construction area. There was some construction barriers still up there, kind of stopping cars from going through the road.
Wait, why are we here?
Help me move this barricade. Okay, but what are we even doing here?
It's Devil's Night. We should steal something. Like what? Oh.
Blinky light.
Come on. Let's go check out what they got.
And Joe Jr. drives the car into an even darker area.
Benny tells Kenda that's when things took a dangerous turn.
Check this out. Oh, is that a real gun? Yeah? Let's play Russian roulette.
No way, man.
Fine. 3. What the hell, man? Are you nuts? I'm gonna shoot you for narking on me.
Benny sees him go down. He turns his face away from the gunfire, taking that grazing wound at his head.
What are you doing, man?
Oh my God, man.
Joe Jr. has a change of heart. is he overcome by the guilt of what he's done?
Let me get you to a hospital. Come on. Come on.
Benny is scared to death. He has suffered a grazing gunshot wound, but it bleeds profusely. So Benny gets in the car. What about Robert? And Joe says, he's dead. Let's go.
Your next thought is, I need to get away from this person. How am I going to start doing that?
Okay, hurry up, bro. I'm bleeding everywhere.
I am. We have to go get my dad first.
What? Why? We're like 10 minutes away from the hospital.
Look, my dad will know what to do in a situation like this. We have to go get him. Dude, I am so sorry.
I was in his car, and I thought he was bringing me to the hospital, but he picked up his dad.
Dad gets in the car and takes over.
Where's Costello?
Dead.
Benny thinks they're going to go to St. Francis Hospital, but Joe Jr. turns the other way. He has no idea what to do.
Where are we going? Shut up. Time for you to join your friend Costello.
So Benny decides he's got to try to save his life.
He decided to grab the steering wheel and yanked it real hard to the right.
And they lose control of the car.
You little bastard! That's it!
Joe Sr. is furious when the car stops. Drags Benny out of the car and proceeds to punch and kick him in the face and chest.
Benny claims that's when Joe Jr. took out the gun and fired one final shot into the back of his head.
That'll do it.
Benny is smart enough to play dead, and then he waits to make certain they're gone. He feels a lump in his neck. He doesn't know what that is.
That's the bullet that travels around the skull and comes lodged in the neck. Anybody else probably would have killed him. It just wasn't his day.
And he sees a light. It's a house. And he staggers toward that house to get help. That is a remarkable story.
Benny Messina's statement cements the case against Jose Fernandez Sr. and his son, Joe Jr.
Well, everything that the major accident team investigators said happened was cooperated with Benny. We had the tire tracks at both scenes. And our traffic experts are able to look at these and say the pattern is absolutely consistent.
The architect of this entire affair.
Dad actively participated in this. He endangered other lives because he couldn't accept the fact that maybe his son did do an auto theft.
Joe Fernandez Jr. pleads guilty to second-degree murder and attempted first-degree murder and is sentenced to 32 years. Jose Fernandez Sr. is convicted of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, and second-degree kidnapping. He is sentenced to 30 years in prison.
The real tragedy here is that these young men's lives were ruined. Many, somehow by a miracle, survived, but will always be dealing with the aftermath of these events.
Robert had his whole life ahead of him. Senior in high school, getting ready to graduate. It's a tragedy that somebody had to take his life out there that night.
Who would believe that a father, in a supposed desire to save his son, destroy his son, himself, and his own family, ultimately over nothing?
A shocking murder, executed in broad daylight.
3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Somebody help!
People thinking, is this happening?
It just went from nothing to one of the biggest things you could be involved in. Take up somebody's life.
The victim's own body, a book of secrets.
He can't talk, but he's trying to paint something on his arm.
I think he was trying to imitate who shot him.
This is the magic moment.
The moment that will make or break this case.
Oh, well now. Emotion. It begins at a high level, then adds some more to it, adds some more disputes, adds some more reasons. It doesn't take long to reach a boiling point. There's one thing that never changes: murder. A life has been taken. Their stories stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim. If you kill, I will find you.
It's Monday afternoon, and folks across Colorado Springs are going about their daily routine.
Mark Ruffle stops for gas. He's filling up his tank. Getting ready to pull away. And all of a sudden, he hears what he thinks might be a backfire, a loud bang. Then consecutively, oh my God.
Mark's instincts right away told him that something needs help.
Mark yells for the people that were peering out of the auto parts store to call the police.
The victim's covered in blood. He's gasping for air. Doesn't look good, but he's going to make it.
Across town, Lieutenant Joe Kenda is waiting in line at the drive-through bank teller.
I'll need to see the deposit slip again.
When your day is as busy as mine is, it's very difficult to do simple things. I take a moment to make a deposit, to cover a check my wife has already written to somebody. And as always the case in drive-ups at a bank, the guy in front of you is passing 14 documents back and forth.
Match to Kenda.
Go for Kenda.
We've got a shooting at 840 South Circle Drive.
10-4 mile away.
Can I just cover my wife's check? Well, I guess not.
A few minutes later, Kenda arrives at an unusual location for a crime scene.
It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon in a busy part of town. There are gas stations, restaurants, and this auto parts place. It's not a bar. It's not a strip club. That is all extremely odd.
How you doing?
Yes, sir. How are you?
You the first one on the scene?
Yes, sir.
So what we got?
Got a black male victim, 18 to 22, multiple gunshot wounds to the chest. He's around the hospital now.
Do you know name?
No, sir. No name, no wallet or ID. He's a John Doe for now.
Let's take a look. Yes, sir.
The evidence in the scene is approximately 12 feet from the front door of the auto parts store.
The victim's body was right here. His feet were down there and his head up here.
My God, that's a lot of blood.
Yes, sir.
There's a pool of blood and some shell casings, which appear to be 22 caliber.
We also found 8 shell casings close to the body.
Casings eject from semi-automatic pistols, but they don't fly a single block. So the shooter is standing in front of this guy. This is a direct confrontation.
With the amount of shell casings in the area, this is not a robbery or a random situation.
This individual, according to the officer on the scene, had $15 in cash in his hand, and a receipt, and also a small cardboard box.
That was in the victim's hands.
It's a thermostat for an engine.
Well, here's our guy. He's there to buy a part for his car. When he comes out of that place, he makes contact with somebody, and that somebody opens fire. Not just a little bit, but a lot. Now consider that our shooter is standing in the middle of this parking lot at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in front of God and everybody. He doesn't care. He's enraged. That says he knows this person well.
But who is the victim? The receipt offers no clues, but the thermostat gives Kenda an idea.
Here, maybe earlier. That's an American car.
I have been married for 49 years. We have owned 57 cars. I know a lot about them. My wife on occasion would get very annoyed with me and my cars because I love cars. My response was always the same. Hey, it could be women and whiskey. It's cars. This car that belongs, we think, to our victim is a classic car.
It doesn't take Kenda long to spot a vehicle that fits the bill.
There it is. Fast charger.
Everything about the car was as it was when it was built. And that makes it valuable, but it also means the owner is very concerned about it and makes certain to maintain everything.
Let's get their victim's car. Want to run the plates through the owner is?
Yes.
85 Charlie, Queen on check, Colorado, Sierra, Brother, 0614.
But when the plates are run, the owner's identity only deepens the mystery.
Car comes back to Joe Jefferson.
Belongs to Joseph Jefferson. So that's our man? Well, no, because we've determined that Joseph Jefferson's 49 years old. And this is a kid.
That's not a victim.
Why was the victim holding a car part intended for a car that didn't belong to him?
Lieutenant, can I have a witness right over here?
Thanks.
So while I'm trying to consider what possibly may have happened, one of the officers walks up to me and says, I got a witness. Let me introduce you to this guy.
How you doing? I'm Lieutenant Kenda.
Mark Raffle. It's been a pretty intense afternoon.
Want to walk me through it?
Yeah, I mean, I was just across the street getting gas, and I heard shots, and I saw this guy fall over. Hey, buddy, you okay?
He says he looks at this guy. He's got blood all over his shirt.
It's all right.
He is gasping for air.
Who did this to you, do you know?
And the guy makes no reply. He tries to reply, but he's coughing and choking, and blood's coming out of his mouth. And then Mark says he did the strangest thing. He says he notices the victim painting on his arm.
That was his last action, and I think he was trying to indicate who shot him.
Of all the dead people and all the murders I have ever been involved in, I've never seen or heard of that.
Did you see what he wrote?
It was hard to tell. Maybe a J and an O. Then the ambulance came. I couldn't see what else.
I appreciate it. You want to call the hospital and preserve that writing until I can go read it myself?
Yes, sir.
Was it the letter J? Was it the number 5? Was it, something else?
Whether it's J.O. or something else entirely protected.
Arriving at Memorial Hospital, Kenda and his team check in on their victim and get some bad news.
We have cause of death?
Yeah, he received one round right to the center of his chest.
The victim has died as a result of his gunshot wounds. One of those bullets went through his heart.
Were you able to preserve the blood evidence?
For the most part, we covered it up as soon as you guys alerted us.
To preserve that writing on his arm, they would bag it, and they had it draped in such a way that it wouldn't really touch any part of the arm.
If we discovered a name on his forearm, it would be similar to a dying declaration.
Ready? You bet.
What could be better than this? The victim wrote the name of the shooter on his arm.
Here we go.
Except he didn't.
All we observed was blood smears.
Did you see anything? I looked at it and couldn't see anything that made sense.
Ken's most promising clue goes up in smoke. And hours into his investigation, he's still no closer to even knowing who his victim is.
Yeah, I see it.
So you go from elation and of thinking that this is finally going to be an easy one, and reality sets in immediately, explaining, no, it's going to be awful. We're investigating the death of an unknown individual. Killed in an auto parts parking lot.
Can you tell me something?
The witnesses say he wrote a name on his arm, but it's nothing more than marks in blood.
Thanks, guy. Yeah, good luck, man.
With his sole lead now a dead end, Kenda shifts his focus to identifying the deceased.
Without the identification of the victim, the investigation is at a standstill.
Lieutenant Kenda Duffy.
Yeah, go for Duffy.
I need to know if there's anyone at the scene that has any more information on our victim.
Like I've seen him before. Anyone know his name?
According to detectives, none of the bystanders know the victim's name, but they have uncovered another eyewitness.
We got a customer that saw somebody running away from the scene.
Witness said he ran into a white sedan, jumped in the...
That to me is very significant. Our shooter has a driver waiting for him. It's more than a chance encounter. This is a plan.
Thanks for the info. Come now.
Excuse me. Yes. My name is Everett McKenzie, and I heard about the shooting down there at the auto parts store.
Mr. McKenzie explains that his son Antoine spends a lot of time at the auto parts store, and that he hasn't heard from him all day long, which is unusual.
We do have a male victim of gunshot wounds, and he is deceased.
Kenda is beginning to believe that his victim is Edward McKenzie's son, Antoine. Unfortunately, there's only one way to find out.
Sir, I'd like you to come in and take a look and see if you know who it is. Just get ready.
That's him. That's my son.
And we now know who our victim is. He is Antoine McKenzie. Identification made the hard way. Not only has his father's greatest fear been realized, he is feet away from the deceased body of his son.
No, this is not happening. When I find a son of a bitch, I'm gonna kill myself.
He storms off. He leaves the hospital because he's mad.
So now that Antoine's father has stormed out of the room, he leaves us with the task of telling Antoine's grandmother that he's dead. It's a very unpleasant task, but one that's necessary. So we do.
I'm sorry to say it is your grandson.
We give her a few minutes to settle, but we explain we have to ask her some questions.
Okay. Tell me about your grandson.
Antoine was a sweetheart. He always helped me out in my house.
His grandmother described him as a very nice young man who wasn't in the gangs, wasn't into trouble, didn't hang around with the wrong people. Just a loving, young 20-year-old man.
When was the last time you saw him?
This morning, he left early to work on his car. He loved that car.
Antoine wanted it to be in tip-top shape because he was going to drive to Texas to visit.
He took a lot of pride in his car.
How long have you owned the car?
He's been saving up for it for ages. And he finally was able to give the owner the final payment this month.
It's now clear to Kenda why the plates on Antoine's car came back to 49-year-old Joseph Jefferson.
In fact, he bought it so recently he hadn't even changed the registration yet over to his name.
Do you have any idea who might want to harm your grandson?
Antoine was a good boy. He stays out of trouble. This must be some mistake. Nobody ever wanted to hurt him.
As I'm talking with grandmother, Mr. McKenzie returns. And he's still very emotional, but he's obviously not angry anymore.
Sorry about that. I just lost it.
It's understandable.
I think I know who killed my son.
He tells police that Antoine has had bad blood with someone named Kelvin Washington. He's not really sure why, but he knows that it's been going on.
It was something that happened a couple of years back when he was in high school.
All right, let's go talk to Kelvin.
Yes, sir. I'm Lieutenant Kenda from the Colorado Springs Police Department. This is Detective Walker. We're here to talk to a Calvin Washington about an incident that happened earlier today. Does he have to leave here?
Yes, he's my stepson. Come on in.
Thank you.
Kelvin, there's some detectives here to talk.
Kelvin does not present as a violent criminal. Kelvin's a 19-year-old kid wearing glasses watching television. Does that mean he's not capable of pulling a trigger? No, it doesn't. His appearance raised any alarm? No, it doesn't.
But what Kelvin says next immediately gets Kenda's attention.
I know you'll be coming to see me.
Well, does he know that because you put 6 bullets in Antoine at an auto parts store? That's what we're here to find out. This investigation is starting to progress. We've gone from Antoine McKenzie being killed in the auto parts lot. And we've determined that he has this enemy, Kelvin Washington, a kid of almost the same age.
Kelvin.
When we contact Kelvin, he tells us that he automatically assumed that we were coming to talk to him.
Why would you say that, Calvin? Is there a reason why you're expecting the police to come visit you?
Kelvin was not surprised when police showed up because he knew that fingers would probably be pointed at him.
News travels fast in this neighborhood. I know Antoine got killed today. He and I, we didn't get along so good. Everybody knows that.
You could just come in and talk to us.
That's what I told my stepdad. But he told me to wait to see if you come looking for me.
And here I am. Why don't you tell me about your relationship with Antoine?
I ain't kill him. I can tell you that.
Kenda wonders if Kelvin's laid-back demeanor is just a front.
He's in his own living room. I am the stranger. He is not. He's in the best position to lie to me and be comfortable doing it.
But there's a surefire way to flip the dynamic.
Why don't we take a ride down to my office to talk about it?
Okay. I guess I can meet you there.
This won't take long. You take my car. I'll have someone drop you off when we're done.
Okay.
So we drive down to police headquarters. And now we're going to be in my living room and not in yours.
So you're about to start telling me about how you and Antoine got along?
Here's the thing. It all started in high school with this girl named Cynthia. Me and Cynthia, we was dating at the time. So you know, make a basketball team this year.
Finally.
Whatever, but I'm supposed to be in a lot of playing time, so you gotta be at all the games.
Okay, well, I'll try.
Alright, let's go. Maybe I'll be right back.
Okay.
According to Kelvin, he wasn't the only one with a crush on Cynthia.
What's up, baby? How you doing?
Antoine. You better stop.
What do you see in that square anyway?
I like him.
Come on now. You're going to do way better than get out of here. I like that.
Dog, what's your problem?
Problem?
Yeah, it's a problem. You need to get out of here.
Mike.
Boy, you better get out of my face.
What's going to happen? What you going to
A
do?
lot's gonna happen.
I'll see you later.
Over here.
Kelvin told investigators that Antoine actually came to the house and started a fight with him over the girlfriend situation.
You better not ever get threatened like that ever again in your life.
You better leave my girl alone.
What's going to happen?
You're gonna get hurt. Boy, get off my porch.
You better watch your back.
When he said to me that this started over a girl, my interest was immediately piqued. The sex drive is a very powerful emotion. More than enough to cause somebody to pull a gun.
Like the guy.
But he tried to steal your girl.
Cynthia? I'm not even by her. We broke up years ago.
Kelvin says that was, water under the bridge and that he'd gotten over it and moved on.
Look, I was wrong, man. I got a job. I got a family. I really don't have time to deal with none of that nonsense.
So I said, if you say you're not responsible for the death of Antoine McKenzie, then where were you today at around 3 o'clock when somebody took Antoine McKenzie's life?
And he basically said he was at home most of the day. Had left for a very short time.
I stepped out for a little while, but I was back at home by 3 o'clock.
Kelvin, what type of vehicle you have?
It's just a little 4-door sedan.
What color is it?
Silver.
Well, we have a witness that says the car involved in the shooting is a white car. He's a relatively calm kid. His parents are cooperative. There's really nothing there that is a red flag to me, not yet at least.
All right, you're free to go. Pop an officer guy behind.
At this point in this investigation, I'm feeling the usual lost soul effect. We've taken 2 steps forward and 1 step back.
But a startling discovery is about to take the investigation in a new direction.
Just got off the phone with the coroner. Not gonna believe this.
Try me.
They go into the Vic's clothes. They find a tube of crazy glue. And there's something else.
Well, it's not illegal to possess crazy glue. But when they open crazy glue, what it contains isn't glue.
We find 4.7 grams of crack cocaine, which would indicate that it was a distribution rather than recreational use.
Though it's a critical piece of evidence, the vial of crack cocaine only raises more questions.
And that opens this enormous double doors leading to the drug world, where motives abound and little connection is required to result in gunfire.
Seems that our Vic may not be so innocent after all.
Gather the detectives. I want all of you to give me their street informants. Find out if Antoine had any disputes with anyone in the drug world.
On it.
There are jungle drums in the drug world. Start listening to the jungle drums. If you're going to kill over drugs, you're proud of it. You want everybody to know. Don't mess with me. Or what happened to Antoine is going to happen to you.
With officers combing the streets for intel, it doesn't take long for a tip to roll in.
Hey, Joe, this is Agent Thompson, the FBI.
I get a call from an FBI agent in the local field office who has an informant who says he knows who killed Antoine McKenzie. Oh, my. We're on the hunt for the killer of Antoine McKenzie. An FBI agent has come forward with a confidential informant who says he has critical information about the McKenzie case.
So what do you got for me?
Well, our CI says he was set up. Someone wanted him taken out.
According to the CI, a man named Harold Smith could be involved in Antoine's murder.
Is this now a drug killing? Well, it certainly could be. You could reasonably make an assumption, but it remains an assumption, because you don't know. The informant also says that just before the shots were fired, Antoine's car was seen at his house. What if Harold is the dealer and Antoine isn't paying him? Could this be reasonable? Absolutely. In the narcotics world, the smallest thing can lead to a fatal result.
Kenda runs a records check on Harold Smith, and within the hour, he and his team are on their way to Smith's West Side residence.
We find out where Harold lives. Small home in a lower income area.
Can I help you? Lieutenant Kennedy, Detective Marker. Do you know Antoine McKenzie? Yeah. I know Antoine. Knew him well. You boys investigating what happened? We are.
Kenda knows criminals, but so far, Harold isn't acting like one.
He's not shocked, and he's not angry. He's inquisitive. He doesn't have the demeanor of someone that knows why we're there.
Are all these cars yours? No, I'm a mechanic. Got a little business specializing in older cars. That's how I knew Antoine.
Yeah, I kind of just got the car and it's overheating, so.
Let me check. Let me check it here. Step back so you don't get caught with the wheel.
He said he's been over here 100 times every car he's owned. And I've always helped him with the cars.
Not enough water, so let's check some water.
He's interested in it. He wants to learn. And I helped the kid.
Did you happen to see him today? Yeah, I saw him earlier.
What was he doing here?
He brought over his charger. Said it was overheating, so I took a look at it. It was the thermostat. It ended up being stuck.
So he said, I told him to go down to Circle Drive and get a thermostat and come back and I'd put it in for him. But he never came back.
fact that Antoine was in possession of a new thermostat the truth.
So was the informant correct? Sort of?
Just going down to the auto parts store? Tell him you need a thermostat for a charger.
Okay. Was Harold involved in this crime? No. He has no police record. He has nothing. He's just a guy who happens to know Antoine.
Well, I appreciate your help. Have a good day.
At this point in this investigation, we're back again to the usual. Everything that looks so good turns out to be so bad. This case is getting harder by the minute.
Unbeknownst to Kenda, his luck is about to change.
Another informant came forward with some information. Told us that there was an individual who had a feud with the victim in this case.
So you're saying you know who shot Antoine McKenzie?
Yeah, the boy you're looking for goes by Nebo.
Nebo? Come on, know your real name.
Nebo's his name, that's what I got. That's the guy that killed Antoine.
The informant reports Nebo and Antoine have been in heated arguments for an extended period of time. On one occasion, Nebo shoots at Antoine outside of Antoine's house.
What you doing in front of my house?
Nebo hits his cousin, who's standing next to him.
Antoine grabs his piece.
Nebo!
Shoots at Nebo and misses.
At this moment, we've exposed that there's another side to Antoine's personality. Maybe he does some other things that aren't the nicest things.
So why were these two angry at each other in the first place?
I don't know why they hated each other, but they did. Eventually, somebody was going to get murdered. According to the informant, the prior afternoon, Nebo decided it was time to take Antoine out once and for all. So Nebo and a friend drove around looking for Antoine, and when they found him, Nebo shot him dead.
Do you know his friend's name?
Yeah, real young high school dude. Charlie something. Charlie Adams is his name.
Do you happen to know what color Charlie's car is?
It's white.
This is the magic moment. And our witness said, our shooter gets in the passenger side of a white car and it drives away. Charlie Adams has a white car. Now we can talk to an active participant.
Track down Charlie Adams' address and pay him a visit.
You see that? Looks like we're in the right place.
Yes?
Is there Charlie Adams that lives here?
He does. He's my son. How can I help you?
I would like to ask him 2 questions if we may.
Come on in. Charles, could you come in, please? Have a seat.
Charlie, I'm going to be honest with you. We got information that you were driving a getaway car for a person that committed a murder.
Wait, what? You tell these gentlemen what they need to know, and you do it right now.
The mother is angry with her son, concerned about his involvement criminally in something as awful as a murder. She has all those emotions going on, but her sense of rightness overcomes that. He's almost in tears because he's a kid, and he believes that he could be in the trouble of his life.
Will Charlie be able to tell us who Nebo is and what his involvement in this homicide was?
Tell me what happened, Charlie.
Tell them.
Me and Kelvin were riding around.
Wait. You and who?
Kelvin Washington. Everybody called him Nebo.
Now I know that Kelvin Washington is in fact Nebo, and I'm thinking, you lying little bastard. You didn't tell me the truth for a second. Well, let me tell you something, Kelvin. We're going to have a conversation, and you are not going to like the next one. We are now at the moment of breaking this case open like an egg. We know who the driver was. We We know that Nebo and Kelvin Washington are one and the same person.
But knowing all this isn't enough to warrant the arrest of Kelvin Washington. Kenda and his team need Charlie Adams to fill in the rest of the story.
So why were you and Kelvin driving around?
Charles.
I was trying to find some weed.
I know I got it. He work around there.
You work here?
Yeah, he work here.
According to Charlie, their effort to score some marijuana led them to a parking lot near an auto parts store. That's where something caught Kelvin's eye.
Yo, pull up right here. Pull it right. Yeah, right here.
Charlie explains that after Kelvin got out of the car, he parked around the corner. A few minutes later, he heard what sounded like gunfire.
Did Kelvin tell you what he was doing when he was gone from the car?
No. Charlie Adams doesn't admit that he knew that Kelvin was going to go shoot Antoine. And he doesn't admit that Kelvin came back and told him that he shot Antoine. But what it does tell the investigators that Charlie Adams put Kelvin at the scene of that homicide.
Ma, you gotta believe me. I didn't know he was gonna commit a crime.
I believed him. I looked at him and his mother and I said, Charlie, have you ever heard the expression, truth will set you free? Well, in your case, it just did.
With Charlie's confession in tow, Kenda summons Kelvin Washington, a.k.a. Nebo, back down to the station.
He's still very calm, cool, and collected, smiling. Thinks there's nothing to this. Thinks we don't know anything.
So what's up, Nebo? We've been talking to a lot of people. Got a lot of different stories. But guess what? You're the center of all of them. But I'm a reasonable guy. I understand there's another side to every story. This is your chance to tell me yours.
I think now he is aware that we're standing on his tail. So he begins by saying, well, there is more to the feud than what I told you the first time. Well, no, Nebo.
Antoine had it out for me ever since high school. Just wouldn't leave me alone. I could have moved out of town. But my parents really needed me here.
So what happened?
He was just always after me. He was constantly threatening me. The guy was just out of control.
Despite the crack cocaine found on Antoine's body, it's clear to Kenda this shooting isn't drug-related, just a feud over a girl that's run out of control.
And you didn't do anything to keep this going?
No. I'm telling you, I did nothing.
You played no part in it at all?
I mean, yeah, I used to talk to him. That's because y'all was used to be bullying me. And I was just trying to defend myself.
Open this door, punk! Make me break this door down.
Yeah, you gotta say no. Yeah, you better run. Little punk ass. Come around here again, I dare you. I dare you.
Oh, Kelvin, that's brilliant. You're not only admitting your involvement with a further feud, you've put a gun in your own hands. I'm liking this. I'm liking this a lot.
Okay, I get it. Antoine's the monster and you're innocent. And you expect me to believe you?
Okay, I didn't shoot him. I didn't kill anyone.
Crying and lying. Crying and denying. Are we going to get any further with him? No. But we've gotten far enough. He has said enough to put a rope around his own neck.
It's your last chance, Kelvin. We know you did it. Come clean. Get it off your chest.
Kelvin refused to admit to me that he was responsible for this. He just wouldn't do it.
I want a lawyer.
Sounds to me like you're gonna need one.
Though Kelvin Washington never admits his guilt, Kenda believes he can piece together the events leading up to the murder of Antoine McKenzie.
I believe Charlie Adams is telling the truth.
It's gonna take long? No, it's gonna be quick. It's gonna be real quick.
That they were cruising around looking for scores of marijuana. But Kelvin sees the car. He sees Antoine's car.
Yo, stop right here. Stop.
and it's the only car like that in that whole part of town. The passion rises in him.
Hey, pull around the corner. I'll be right back, bro. Yeah, pull around there. We'll come right back.
The hate rises in him. He's got a gun in his pants. It's time to end it.
At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, broad daylight, he was gonna do what he had to do.
Antoine comes out of that store. Kelvin walks up to him and starts blasting. I doubt he said a word to him. He's not there to talk. He's there to kill. Antoine, in his last moments on Earth, tries to tell us who did this. He tries to write on his arm in his own blood the name of the shooter. What if instead of J.O., it's an attempt to write M.K. Kelvin?
Kelvin Washington is convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole.
People should consider these tales they're hearing on this program. Compare them to the lives they engage in. Think about what could go wrong. Think about how far something could be taken. Maybe it will stop you from engaging in that behavior. Maybe. If it doesn't, you wind up talking to someone just like me. And you won't like it.
A decorated veteran dies in his sleep.
He's very poor health. The coroner found it to be a natural death.
But not everyone agrees this case is closed.
Why is she coming forward now?
We have reason to question her motive. We're really up in the air as to what exactly happened.
There's only one way for Lieutenant Joe Kenda to uncover the truth.
You're going to dig up the dead. The fact is, we don't know what we're going to find when we bring this body out of the grave.
Call 911.
On occasion, sometimes the most obvious is in many ways the furthest thing from the truth. We shall see. We shall see. There's one thing that never changes. Murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim. If you kill, I will find you.
It's been a fairly quiet day for Colorado Springs police officer Preston Shields. But just as his shift is winding down, he gets a call from dispatch.
Unit 243.
243, go ahead.
We have a report of a domestic disturbance. Please respond.
10-4, in right.
One of our officers, upon arrival, hears a domestic going on inside the residence.
Domestic violence situations are always probably one of the most dangerous calls that a police officer can go on. The officer has to be extra careful. The officer could hear a lot of yelling and screaming going on, which would heighten your sense of precaution because you wonder what's happening.
Police department, open up!
He's trying to kill me.
Calm down. You all right? Come on.
She's hysterical, she's upset, kind of a disheveled appearance.
Sir, let me see your hands right now.
Officer, she's lying.
Hey, calm down.
She doesn't know what she's
I said
talking
calm
about.
down. You lying. You need to settle down. Do not move.
Once the officer placed this individual in handcuffs, it goes back to the victim to get her side of the story. What's going on in here?
You want to press charges?
Him miles around about it. Finally decides that she does.
Take him to jail today.
Officer, this is... I didn't do anything. Hey, I said calm down and hush.
But then just out of the blue, during this conversation, she just blurts out.
Do you want to solve the murder? Because I know who killed Overhead.
CSPD headquarters. Lieutenant Joe Kenda and Detective Brian Red are waist deep in paperwork.
I need this one filled out. I need these 3 signed.
1991 was one of the deadliest years in homicide in the city of Colorado Springs at the time.
We were setting a record with the amount of homicides we were investigating. Broke a record that was probably 20 years old.
Yeah, can I call you back? Thanks.
Hey, Lieutenant.
I had phones ringing. I had radios yelling at me. And somebody else walks in. It's not what I needed at that particular moment, but it never is.
We got someone at Kay Conway. Says she knows who murdered Orville Head.
Who's Orville Head?
She said he was murdered about 5 months ago.
I have an excellent memory of who my victims are. Especially excellent 5 months later. I never heard of Orville Head. How could he be murdered if I don't know about it? So I look at my homicide files for the name Orville Head.
So Harrison, Harden, Heard.
I find nothing.
That's when it dawns on Kenda. What if the case wasn't reported as a murder?
I look in the death file, and I find a very thin 2-page report titled Death of Undetermined Origin in the name of Orville Head. It says that Orville Head, 71 years of age, is discovered deceased in a room he rents, and police are called. It's a very routine call referred to as a DB, meaning a dead body. Patrol respond, and they discover it is disheveled, it is filthy.
They find an old man lying in basically a hospital bed, urine bags hanging all around him.
His glasses and dentures are on the table next to the bed. He is reposed in a perfectly relaxed position.
Looks like he basically just died in his bed there.
When you arrive on the scene, the primary responsibility of the officer is to document the scene as to what he observed.
Is this a crime scene that we're looking at, or is this a natural death?
Here.
Evidence of trauma on the body, incised wounds, meaning stab wounds, gunshot wounds, marks, bruising.
No wounds except for there's a little scratch on his neck.
No signs of trauma to the body. No real clear-cut cause of death.
I don't see any sign of a suicide note. I'm gonna check the doors.
Okay.
Doesn't look like there was any forced entry into the apartment. There was no struggle that could be determined in there.
No signs of a break.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna call the coroner.
With no signs of foul play, standard protocol is to contact the coroner's office, not the major crimes unit.
Once all parties are satisfied that criminal activity is not likely to be relevant, the body's brought back to the coroner's office and then prepared for autopsy. The decedent in this case is found in a hospital-type bed with rails on it. He's known to be quite ill. He's got a very fatty liver. He also had significant heart disease. So this is undoubtedly a guy who was very sick and had a lot of medical problems.
Hardening of the kidneys, advanced heart disease. Take your pick as to which one is fatal.
Boy, this guy's a mess.
The coroner is the one who's ultimately responsible to identify the cause of death. In this case, he's called a natural causes medical.
The reason Kenda had never heard of Orville Head is simple. Neither the coroner nor the responding officers believed Mr. Head had been murdered.
We're in the criminal homicide business, not natural death.
After reading the autopsy, Kenda begins to wonder about Kay Conway and her claim that Orville Head was murdered.
Is Kay Conway insane? I had an old lady who would take a city bus to the police building every time she read about a murder in the paper to offer her confession. She was just lonely. Nobody would talk to her, but we would. Is Kay Conway one of those?
Just to be safe, Kenda decides to contact Kay Conway himself.
I would never reopen a death case unless I had overwhelming evidence or belief that this was in fact something other than a natural death.
Well, Miss Conway? This is Lieutenant Kenda Conway.
Come talk to me, Miss Conway, and tell me why you said what you said.
That evening, Kay Conway comes in for questioning.
Please have a seat.
She is at this point nothing more than a reporting witness. We treat her that way.
Ms. Conway, I understand there's something to tell us.
We're not going to dance. We're going to be extremely direct. Ms. Conway, please leave out no detail.
It was my boyfriend, Paul Swanson,
Really? How exactly would you know this?
because he told me he did.
You're saying he confessed?
Yes.
This is something way beyond a big accusation. She's making a direct accusation against a named individual, saying he confessed to killing Orville Head. No longer matters how busy we are. We just got a little busy. Suddenly, a woman appears out of nowhere to announce that some man was murdered 5 months ago by her boyfriend. But the coroner found it to be a natural death. Trying to investigate a case backwards. Extremely difficult to do.
So you're saying that Paul Swanson murdered Orville Head, then he confessed it to you?
Yes.
All right, let's start at the beginning. How do you know Orville Head?
Miss Conway says she's known Orville for some time, and her boyfriend Paul Swanson knows him as well. And her boyfriend drinks quite often at Orville Head's. So do many others that frequent this place.
Orville opened up his door to anybody who might want to come in and drink with him.
Good? Your choking order.
He was more than happy to welcome him in.
5 months ago, Paul went over to Orville's house one night, but he didn't come home. The next day, I got up and I went to work. When I got home from work, Paul was finally home, and he was stone cold drunk. You're gone all night. Where were you?
Orville's dead.
What are you talking about? What happened?
He's dead because I strangled him.
Why?
Because you didn't like him.
That was an alarm bell for me. I killed him because you, a third person, didn't like him. Makes no sense to me at all. I'm beginning to question Conway's truthfulness at that moment.
And then what happened?
He let me go.
The bizarre motive Kay has laid out isn't the only issue Kenda has with her statement. The fact that she waited 5 months to make it also gives him pause.
Obviously, we want to know why Kay's delayed in telling us this information.
And why didn't you report it right then?
Because I'm afraid of him. He gets so angry about everything. He hurts me. I didn't know what to do.
When you're in an abusive situation like that, you'd be scared out of your wits. It's like, well, if he can do that to him.
That was the last straw. I am done with him.
Ms. Conway, I understand that you're pressing charges, so you won't have to worry about him for a while. He's going to be in lockup for at least a couple of days.
Thank goodness.
Thank you for coming in. I'll make sure an officer sees that you home.
The information that Kay provides us this time does bring into question the actual death of Orville Head, but her information alone is not enough to make an arrest.
So what do you think?
Not sure.
I have my reservations about Kay Conway. Could it be true? Of course it could. Is it true? I don't know. Kay Conway has a reason to get Mr. Swanson in a jam. He's been abusing her. He's recently done it again.
Stop! Please.
You have to look at, is she trying to pin it on Paul because she wants to get rid of him or have vengeance or whatever?
Come down for a murder rap would certainly get him out of her life.
Yep. For a long time. I don't want to think she would make something like this up, but who knows?
But one crucial piece of the puzzle is still missing.
The only thing that's going to tell us if this is in fact a homicide is Orville Head's remains. And he's been in the ground for 5 months. We need to examine the body of Orville Head. The letter of the law says I have an absolute legal right as the commander of the homicide unit to demand the removal of a body from a grave to determine the manner of death. But a judge is not going to issue that order without somebody in the family saying it's okay.
The following morning, detectives pay a visit to Orville Head's closest living relative, his brother Jack.
Mr. Head? I'm Lieutenant Kenda, Detective Ritz from Colorado Springs Police Department. We're here because we may have some information about the death of your brother, Orville.
What's going on?
Well, first off, can you tell us a little bit about Orville?
He was a good man. Although rough around the edges, just because he was a leatherneck, through and through.
Orville Head was an American hero. He was the Marine who fought in World War II.
He had actually been wounded in battle and received the Purple Heart and had received a medal for bravery.
After the war, Orville settled into a career in the civil service. But inside, the battle raged on.
Jack goes on to say that Orville suffered from PTSD from combat with the Japanese, and he never got over that, and he self-medicated his problem with alcohol.
And he goes from being part of the greatest generation to being a person who has terrible medical problems and is an alcoholic. And it's a sad turn of...
Mr. Head, I'm sorry to say that the information that we've received is that it's possible your brother may not have died of natural causes.
What do you mean?
Well, he may have been murdered, and I hate to say it, but in order for us to be absolutely sure, we're going to need to examine the body.
Now, this is a very bad and difficult thing to do to a family member. We put it in as nicely as we can, but bottom line, that's what we want to do.
I don't know. I mean, is this really necessary?
I'm afraid it is. It's the only way we're going to know for sure.
Nobody wants to exhume a body, but if it means solving a crime and letting this person be at rest because it is solved, then it's worthwhile.
Okay.
Jack ultimately decides that it is important to know whether Orville just died or somebody did kill him.
No, we appreciate it. I'll make sure you don't leave.
So he expressly permits a judge to issue the exhumation order to determine the truthfulness of the accusation.
The following afternoon, a recovery team is sent to exhume Orville's coffin from the grave. But Kenda bristles at the idea of raising the dead.
Death is not supposed to be a scientific experiment of being dug up from a grave and probed by a doctor. You're supposed to finally be free of this world and all the various things with it.
Another concern is whether Orville's remains will offer any further clues about the true cause of death.
It depends on the environment and the quality of the embalming. I've seen cases where in just a few months, the bodies will begin to decompose. Water had seeped into the casket. There wasn't much left to examine.
The fact is, we don't know what we're going to find when we bring this body out of the grave. The dead cannot speak. We have to speak for them. I'm in the middle of an autopsy of 71-year-old Orville Head, and nothing is making much sense. Everyone believes that Orville Head died of natural causes. His family, his friends, even the coroner.
Was this 71-year-old World War II vet really murdered? Only his body can provide the answer.
Is he, intact?
Fungus and things like that can still grow. Mold can grow on the body, which can cover it. And there may be some continued progress through the post-mortem stages.
But if an embalming is done correctly, generally speaking, they look recognizable as the person you knew them to be. In this particular case, that was true.
So what are we looking for? We may have been strangled, but I don't know for sure.
There are two ways to strangle somebody. One is with a ligature, like a belt, like a rope, like a piece of wire. The The other method is human hands putting pressure on the throat. Then the thumbs generally wind up pressing the center of the throat inward.
There's none of the external bruising or ligature marks that normally indicate strangulation, but the coroner has another technique that might shed light on the true cause of death.
We'll do an internal exam of the neck. The hyoid?
Yep. The hyoid bone is a C-shaped bone that lives high up in the neck, and it helps with swallowing and talking and things like that. It's a relatively well-protected bone. But if you've got a fractured hyoid and you don't have another explanation for it, you need to be concerned about a strangulation.
So the hyoids are definitely broken. There's some damage to the thyroid cartilage as well. So what do you think? There's no question. It's definitely a strangulation.
So Kay Conway is correct about one thing completely. It is, in fact, a murder. The possibility that Orville had been strangled could have easily been overlooked in the first autopsy. No one was thinking murder. Orville was so far gone from his other problems that no one ever thought to look at his neck.
With cause of death determined, Kenda turns back to the question of who's responsible.
Did Paul Swanson, in fact, strangle Orville Head and confess that to Kay Conway like she claims? Or did someone we don't know about strangle Orville Head, told Kay Conway about it, and she sees an opportunity to rid herself of an abusive boyfriend? So where is Paul Swanson? Well, he's in jail.
Well, Mr. Swanson.
It's only been a day or two since he was arrested.
I'm Lieutenant Kenda.
Lieutenant? Swanson believes, of course, he's going to be questioned about assaulting Kay Conway.
Sure.
Yes, please. Thanks. Listen, Lieutenant, I never touched Kay. She's lying. In fact, she's the one that hit me, man. I should be pressing charges here.
I'm not here about Kay.
Why?
I'd just like to get some information. What can you tell me about him?
Well, Paul says that he liked to help Orville out because he felt sorry about the situation he was in.
All right, I'll take care of it. I'll do the dishes. You relax. Oh, I got it. Oh, you're a good man, Paul.
Orville was pretty sick. Paul would cook breakfast for him and help clean his dishes and things like that.
We became friends, you know. And he was a World War II veteran. He used to tell me war stories. I kind of liked the old man.
So what can you tell me about the day that Mr. Head died?
He says that he was over there the evening before. Another gentleman had come over who was described as a Hispanic male, but he didn't know the name.
And they were all three drinking.
Pour me another one. Time for one more? Hey, me too. You. No more left, amigo.
He's gone?
That's it.
I'm out of here, man.
For sure, man.
What? You leaving? Oh, man.
Well, I think I'm gonna go to the store and get some more hooch.
I think that's a great idea.
Paul decides he wants to continue to party. He's going to walk to the liquor store. That takes him probably half an hour.
All right, buddy, I'm back.
When he comes back, he finds what he believes to be asleep on the bed.
Orville, we're reloaded. You want some more? Hey, buddy. Okay. More for me?
He continues to drink. He falls asleep, passes out in the chair next to Orville.
Hey, Orville. Orville.
When Swanson wakes up the next morning, he sees that Orville is not awake.
Orville. Orville. Orville, wake up, man. Orville, wake up, man. Come on.
He starts to become alarmed that there's something really wrong because he's cold to the touch. He picks up Orville's phone and it doesn't work. So now he's a little panicked.
Damn it.
And he says he goes over to the local bar, try to get the police notified.
Call 911. Call 911. What's going on? It's Orville. He's not breathing.
So we now know Mr. Swanson, by his own admission, was in Orville Head's room the night before his death.
What do you think killed Orville?
I mean, he was an old man. He had a bad heart. You know, he was really sick. You know, he could hardly get around.
Here's the thing. We just dug up Orville's body. Turns out he was murdered. And you were the last person to see him alive.
He was murdered? Jesus. Listen, I would never hurt Orville. You know, he was my friend.
It's clear that Paul Swanson had the means and opportunity to murder Orville Head, but a potential motive is far murkier.
I cannot determine why Paul Swanson would have suddenly risen up and strangled Orville Head. All I have at this point is an accusation by Kay Conway that he confessed his crime to her, and that's not enough.
Who's telling the truth here? Is Kay just trying to pin this on Paul because she wants to get rid of him? Or is Paul telling the truth that it was just a simple night of drinking, and when he came home, Orville was dead?
They will want to know more about their history to help us determine which one is truthful and which one is lying. Who can tell us about that? The most likely candidates are the neighbors. There's always a neighbor in a group of neighbors who'd make it their business to know everybody else's business.
Kenda learns that in this case, that person is one Aunt Ives.
Hello, Miss Ives. I'm Lieutenant Kenda from the Colorado Springs Police Department. I was told that you could tell me about Paul and Kay.
Those two, nothing but trouble. Police are always over here, breaking up a fight between them. A couple of drunks is what they are.
She goes on to say that the most violent encounter between the two that she's aware of occurred just a short time ago in their front yard.
Leave me alone, Paul!
Get back in the house.
No.
You're causing a scene.
Don't me!
Girl, you're working my nerves.
No.
Get in the house.
Don't.
Come on.
I don't want to go back inside with you.
They go back inside their home, but Anne finds a bloody knife in her yard. Enough is enough, she says, and calls the police.
Anne says that when the police responded, they discovered Paul was the one who was actually injured.
Look at what she did, man.
Wait.
See my arm?
She's lying.
Swanson has a cut on his forearm. He says to the officers that Kay Conway cut his arm with a kitchen knife.
He had the knife, and he did that on his own.
Why would I do this on my own?
Stop.
Anne Ives' statement casts further doubt over Kay Conway's claim that Paul was always the aggressor in their domestic disputes.
Who called the police? Not Mr. Swanson. Not Miss Conway. The neighbor called the police without their knowledge.
So when you're looking at that in this Orville Head investigation, you're saying, was Kay lying to us about Paul cutting himself, and is she lying now?
I'm not sure yet, but I'm going to find out. This extremely unorthodox, backwards homicide investigation 5 months after the fact. We discovered the boyfriend did it, has some serious credibility issues.
After speaking with the neighbors of Kay Conway and Paul Swanson, the case's sole potential suspects, Kenda's next move is to interview folks who lived in the same apartment complex as Orville Head. But here, the 5 months that have passed since Orville's death might as well have been 5 years.
People rented on a monthly basis. It was that kind of complex. So there wasn't people there other than Orville who stayed there on a long-term basis.
We find a neighbor who lived directly next door to Orville Head.
Excuse me, sir. I'm Lieutenant Kenda, this is Detective Ritz, Colorado Springs Police Department.
Hi. Yes, Ives.
Do you recall an Orville Head that passed away about 5 months ago?
Yeah, of course.
Mr. Slikes, we're investigating his death as a possible homicide. Do you think of anyone that might have wanted to harm him?
No. No one comes to mind. But, he was a hothead, always yelling and screaming all the time. And he was always having people over for drinks.
These friends of his, then?
Well, some of them were. Some of them, I think, was just there for the free booze.
He would also invite strangers.
How about you just sit back and shut up?
Who Mr. Sykes described as unsavory characters who would come in and share in his whiskey.
A lot of them were actually taking advantage of Orville's generosity. Orville had the alcohol, these people wanted it, so they would go in and maybe even prey on Orville a little bit.
But the night he actually died, do you remember anything special about that?
Actually, I do.
He didn't know who it was, but just knew that somebody was in there. And Orville was yelling at them to get out of his apartment.
Well, I didn't think much about it at the time. I mean, Orville was always yelling. And then, the next day I heard he had a heart attack and died.
Dan Sykes prompts Kenda to think back on Paul Swanson's statement that he and Orville weren't drinking alone that night.
I understand there's another guy in the building that used to drink with Orville too. Hispanic guy.
Oh, yeah. That'd be Martin Ramirez. Lived a few doors down. That guy, he's no picnic.
He describes Ramirez as kind of a head case who's easily angered and set off. So you couple that statement with Head yelling at somebody that night. Was it Ramirez?
Mr. Ramirez, I'd like to ask you a few questions about Orville Head.
Orville? He's been dead a while now.
That's right, he has. Mind if you come in?
He says he remembers that night because of the fact that Orville was found dead the next morning.
So you were there the night Orville died. Can you tell us what happened?
I was drinking with Orville and Paul. How late you stay? Well, kind of so. I had to get up for work the next morning, so I went home to bed.
Ramirez vehemently denies returning to Orville Head's house any time after 10 o'clock that evening. Says he was drunk, he went to bed, he got up and went to work.
But is Martin Ramirez telling the truth about the night of the murder? It's a question Kenda still can't answer.
Thank you for your time. We'll be in touch.
At this point, we need to find somebody who is close to Orville, somebody that is more knowledgeable than what we've uncovered so far. So we go back to Orville's brother.
Hello, Jack. It's your Kenda here. How you doing? Yeah, I got some more questions about Orville.
So we asked Jack, who is a really good friend of his who would know more than the people we've met so far. Jack says the guy we want to speak to is an old neighbor of Orville's, whose name is Lester Geist.
Lester Geist was a good friend of Orville's. He used to live next door to him. He was somebody who looked out for him.
Jack says he has a cup of coffee at the Robin Hood Bar every morning, and I'm sure you can find him there tomorrow morning.
Lester Geist?
Yes?
Lieutenant Kenda, Detective Ritz.
So we explained to Lester Geist that we are investigating the death of Orville Head now as a homicide.
What? You gotta be kidding me. If he was in trouble, he would have knocked. I would have come right over.
Wait a minute. What do you mean he would have knocked?
Lester said they had a system worked out. If Orville was having an issue with someone or something, he would knock on the wall and Lester would come to his aid.
You know, I was totally shocked when Paul came running in here that morning, and then we saw Orville just laying there.
Wait, you saw the body?
Lester is never mentioned in that limited first report. No one ever knew that Lester Geist exists.
But having seen Orville Head shortly after his death, Lester Geist is Kenda's window into the crime scene.
What did he see that was different? That's what we wanted to know.
Did you notice anything out of place while you were there?
Orville? Orville, buddy.
Lester thought for a minute. He said, "You know what? I did. I noticed that the telephone was unplugged. Click from the phone itself, which was unusual."
So why is the phone unplugged? I immediately returned to my conversation with Paul Swanson, who he said he tried to use the phone and it didn't work. Well, how would you not notice it wasn't plugged in, Mr. Swanson?
Do you know Paul Swanson? Had you ever seen him before he came running into the bar?
Yeah, let me tell you, that guy's got problems. He's a binger, an alcoholic.
But he also goes a step further and says that he has a tendency to get violent when he doesn't get his way when he's been drinking.
Not the slightest.
Now, violent, drunk, and dangerous is a good combination in the murder business.
Given what Lester Geist has told them, Kenda wonders if Kay Conway's initial statement may have, in fact, been true. But even if Kay was telling the truth, it's not enough to arrest Paul Swanson for murder.
You can't just use one person's statement against somebody else to charge them with homicide.
All right, Mr. Geist. Thank you for your time.
Let me know if I can do anything else for you guys.
Appreciate that.
Back at the office, Kenda and Ritz are greeted with some explosive news.
I'm informed there's a woman waiting to see me whose name is Minion Wallace, who says she has information on the Orville Head case.
We appreciate you coming in.
I've been really scared by all this. And when I heard that Orville was murdered, I felt that I had to come speak with you.
Okay.
I know who killed him.
And I'm thinking, wonderful, Minion. You could be precisely who I've been looking for without realizing it was you. believe I'm on the edge of solving this case of knowing who killed Orville Head. Minion Wallace is an elderly lady. She seems very frightened, and now that she's heard and knows that Orville was really murdered, she had to come forward with this information she has for me.
It was Paul Swanson. He's the one who killed Orville.
Minion Wallace goes on to say that she knows Orville Head. She also knows Paul Swanson. She treats Swanson like her nephew. Known him a long time. The night Orville died, she was receiving phone calls from Paul Swanson.
Phoned me, and I could hear Orville in the background.
When she said that, I immediately think Paul Swanson is the same guy that told me the phone didn't work. Now I know Paul Swanson lied to me. Why do you lie to the police? Self-protection. That's why. So, Paul, did you unplug the phone and then you killed Orville?
I didn't think much of it until the next morning. Paul came over, and he told me that he had killed Orville. Paul, good morning. What happened?
I messed up, Minion.
What do you mean?
Orville's dead.
I needed a person to confirm what Conway told me as the truth, and I just found it.
I don't know what to do. I don't know who to call, who to talk to.
Paul Swanson is a drunk. They bounce all over the place. Just did, but they do things all the time they can't recall.
Why didn't you come forward then?
Everyone said that Orville died of natural causes, and I prayed that that was true and that Paul had just imagined it. And I did not want to tangle with Paul.
But just like Kay didn't come forward right away when she was told by Paul that he had killed Orville, Minion was afraid of Paul. She knew he was capable of harming people.
If he finds out I'm here.
And I said to her, Miss Wallace, I can assure you that he's not going to be in a position to hurt you, because he's going to be in prison, because I'm going to put it there.
We have two witnesses who are willing to testify that Paul came forward to them and confessed to the crime. We're starting to build enough probable cause to make an arrest in this case.
Put your hands on the table.
So now I get to go back and arrange for Mr. Swanson to be brought over from the county jail. Placed in an interrogation room.
So, Paul, we've had some interesting conversations with people who seem to know you pretty well.
So what?
So I have some more questions.
I'm not saying anything without my lawyer.
So you've invoked your right to remain silent? Yes. Fine, Mr. Swanson. You certainly may remain silent.
So now what?
Now? Well, now you're under arrest for murder. Officer!
We then took our case to the El Paso County District Attorney's Office. They direct filed charges of second-degree murder against Mr. Swanson.
Although Paul Swanson has lawyered up, Kenda believes he can piece together what happened the night Orville Head was murdered.
All right, where's the secret stash, man?
Just go finish the cigarettes.
Where you doing, bed?
What if I am?
Fresh out of booze, man. Oh, what you got over there? What you holding back from me? I see that.
I'll go get your own.
Come on, Cheryl, man.
Hey.
Spread the love.
So, Paul Swanson, why did he ultimately do this?
This is
We'll
mine.
get some more tomorrow, man.
Think about Swanson's personality.
Share it, man. Give some to me, man.
He drinks to excess. When he's drunk, he becomes violent.
Get the hell out of here. Call the cops. Like hell you are.
He unplugs the phone so Orville can't call for help. Swanson's rage rises, and he reacts by grabbing him by the throat. And strangles Orville until he's not breathing anymore. It would be like strangling a child. Head is in no condition to defend himself. He didn't just assault him, he killed him.
Kenda believes at that point, Paul Swanson staged the room to make it seem like Orville simply died in his sleep.
And then we have to run across the street to the bar to try to get, somebody to call 911.
At trial, that same theory resonates with the jury. They find Paul Swanson guilty and sentence him to 40 years behind bars.
Because people came forward, his death was able to be solved. Otherwise, it would have just fallen through the cracks and nobody would have given it a second thought.
This is one of those cases I'm glad that didn't get away. Had Kay not come forward at this time, she probably could have been the next victim of Paul's.
The darker question raised by this case: how many other natural deaths were actually murders? How many do we not know about? I have no idea.
A knock at the door unleashes a night of terror.
William was obviously assassinated. This is not a random act.
The killers were clearly on the hunt for something.
There's a lot more to this case than meets the eye.
Lieutenant Kenda knows that someone is hiding a shocking secret.
What did they know?
Could this be the catalyst for murder? Absolutely. Humans are very interesting. They do what fear drives them to do. But fear leads to contempt. Contempt leads to conspiracy. And conspiracy leads to murder. There's one thing that never changes: murder. A life has been taken. Their stories are now my stories. I never know where a case is going to lead, but I'll never stop until it's solved. Somebody has to look out for the victim. If you kill, I will find you.
It's past midnight, and the roads are nearly deserted as Pearl Duncan cruises down Nevada Avenue on the way to her friend Nora Evans' house.
She's gonna have a drink with Nora. Typical night for them.
Well, the first thing Pearl notices when she pulls up is the front door standing open.
She has this feeling that something's not right. And as she gets closer to the house, out runs a friend that she knows.
Wait, Paul, Sarah, what's going on? What's wrong?
Something awful has clearly happened. Pearl goes in the house and she can't believe what she sees.
The first thing she notices is Chad, Nora's son, laying on the floor. He's bleeding pretty bad from the chest.
Oh my God!
She then looks over and sees Nora kneeling on the floor holding her boyfriend William's head in her lap.
Just a few miles away, Lieutenant Joe Kenda is battling another sleepless night.
The hardest thing for me to do is to turn my mind off, think about all the things I've done, and all the things I've seen and cannot unsee yet. And it's very, very beautiful, and I would get lost in it. I knew what it was, and I knew I had a new case to work on.
Within minutes, Kenda arrives at the scene on Nevada Avenue, where the night sky is awash in a flood of police lights.
Hey, Lieutenant. You stand? That's what we got to know. 2 victims found inside the house with gunshot wounds. Both been transferred to Memorial Hospital.
The first victim is Chad Evans, a 21-year-old male who's been shot in the chest. He's in stable condition at a hospital. The second victim is William Davis. He's 29 years old. He's been shot in the back of the head, and he's in extremely critical condition.
Our paramedics don't think Mr. Davis will pull through. Do they live here? Nora Evans lives here with her son Chad and her boyfriend William.
The officers explained that Nora Evans and her friend Pearl followed the ambulance to the hospital.
Her friend Pearl showed up after the event. She didn't see anything, but we have Mrs. Evans and an eyewitness, Paul Murphy. He seemed pretty traumatized about the whole thing.
While Ken is discussing the incident with a patrolman, Detective Terry Bjorndal approaches him with a possible lead.
One neighbor said that he had seen a red car possibly fleeing from the scene.
Could be unrelated. We put out an APB just in case.
All right. Let's take a look inside.
I walk into this residence and I see a bath towel that's blood-soaked, and I see an expended 9mm casing laying on the carpet. So obviously, I'm in the right place.
Check this out.
What I see there that's so unusual is a bunch of electrical cords and are scattered around on the floor.
Judd and William both were tied up. Apparently the other two witnesses were as well, managed to untie themselves. All was carried over into the back room down the hall.
Let's take a look.
It is extremely rare to find a crime scene where multiple victims have been shot and that they were tied up when they were shot. When I walk into the bedroom, the mattress is overturned.
Closets were open. There were contents spilled everywhere. There was broken glass.
These aren't messy residents. Somebody is searching for something that is concealed in this place.
Seems like the handiwork of more than one person. Let's go.
It's very obvious this is a robbery as well as a shooting, and the tying says that they're interrogated. So then the question is, what is it that these people are looking for?
Hoping for some clarity, Kenda and Detective Bjorndal turn to the only witness still on the scene.
Paul Murphy is the one that ran to a neighbor to call 911. He's young, just 21 years old. He's a soldier at Fort Carson.
Mr. Murphy.
Yes?
I know you've been through a lot tonight. Need some help sorting this out?
What were you doing here tonight?
It's so weird. I wasn't even planning to be here.
Paul Murphy explains that shortly before midnight, William Davis invited him over to his girlfriend Nora's house for an impromptu round of drinks.
According to Paul, they're sitting around having a couple of cocktails, and Nora advises him that her friend Pearl's coming.
There's a knock at the door. He assumes that's going to be Pearl.
Can you get that?
That's probably her right there, man. We gonna hook you up, right?
Get him, boy, get your pocket. And he was just forced back into the home, onto the carpet.
Yo, give me all the money. Get over here. Chill. Yo, give me the money, man. Take it, go, that's there.
Paul explains that Nora's son Chad was also there at the time of the incident.
Where's the money at?
And they tie them all up using electrical cords that they find in the premise.
Man, try to look, man.
Hey, Chad, it's all right?
How much money we got?
We got $100, man. That's it.
Where the money at? Somebody gonna die tonight.
They wanted that money, and they were going to get it. So two men start ransacking the house.
And Paul becomes absolutely terrified and buries his face in the carpet.
Can you describe these guys at all?
I just kept my head in the floor. I didn't want them to see me, see them. He couldn't provide us with any suspect information.
All right, well, that's all for now.
Thanks for your time.
What's going on with you? Okay.
Based on my own experience, this is not some random event. These guys did not arrive wearing masks and armed at Nora's house by accident.
After speaking with Paul Murphy, Kenda heads to Memorial Hospital, hoping his two victims can shed some additional light on the incident.
I'm told that William Davis is in surgery with a neurosurgeon, but Mr. Evans...
Like garbage. What about William?
Well, he's still in surgery now. We should know more soon. But in the meantime, I could really use your help.
He says he's in bed, he hears yelling and screaming. He steps out into the living room, and a gun immediately is shoved in his face.
His account was about the same as Paul's.
How would you describe these guys?
He cannot offer a description of the perpetrators, even though he is present and is a victim of a shooting. He doesn't seem to know a great deal about anything.
I'm going to let you rest.
Thank you.
After hitting a wall with Chad Evans, Kenda's next best shot at unraveling this mystery rests with the other injured victim, William Davis.
Hey, Joe. Hey, Tommy.
I see the neurosurgeon, who I happen to know, come out of the operating room.
One of my Vicks is being operated on. William Davis. Do you have any idea when I could talk to him?
I hate to break it to you, but he's been pronounced.
So now we have a homicide.
Do you know if there's a Nora Evans here?
Yes, she's in here with a friend with a red shirt on.
Yeah, thank you. Miss Evans, I'm Lieutenant Kenda from the police department. I know it's a difficult time.
I just lost my boyfriend and you're gonna come in here and ask me questions? How dare you?
She comes unstuck, jumps to her feet, yells at me. I just lost my man, and now you want to ask me questions?
You know what? Screw you. Nora, wait.
She storms off down the hall. This woman won't even speak to me, won't even come near me.
You don't have to talk to anybody right now if you don't want to. I want him to stay away from you. He's dead. You don't get that?
And I feel a cringe come over me that, oh my, when things go bad, they tend to stay bad.
The following morning, Kenda rethinks his strategy.
This whole case is falling apart before we even have a chance to even start.
I'm trying to figure out where we're going to go with this.
Pardon me, Lieutenant. I heard about the shooting over the radio, and I think I might have found a connection.
A patrol officer named Michaels comes up and says Evans is an associate of a local street gang. And there's been some bad blood between the group he's affiliated with and another group in the area.
About 2 weeks ago, I responded to a shots fired call near Nora Evans' house.
The officer says a small red car could have been involved in the shots fired.
Kenda wonders, could this be the same red car neighbors saw fleeing the scene of his double shooting?
He said a rival street gang to Chad Evans and his group.
Who's the owner of the red car?
Melvin Small, 25 years old, lives on the southeast side.
Great. How about you and I take a ride over there?
Melvin Small, we know belongs to the street gang. It's not a major gang, but nonetheless, we are certainly prepared for the worst if it comes to that.
Police, open up! You Melvin Small?
Yes, sir.
I'm Lieutenant Kenda from Colorado Springs Police Department. There's a few things I'd like to discuss with you. Do you mind if we come in?
Fine.
While Officer Michaels scans the house for signs of danger, Kenda gets right to the point with Melvin.
So I tell him we're investigating a homicide, and your car may have been seen in that area. Happened last night.
Wasn't me. So that wasn't your red car that people saw leaving Chad's house?
Man, I don't know what people saw, but I'm telling you that wasn't me. I was in Denver yesterday.
He's now pretty nervous. And I said, my friend, you better know who else you were with, and you better tell me that right now.
All right. Give me some names and numbers so people can verify that. Check that.
Sir.
I sent Michaels out to a car phone to confirm this information. So 10 or 15 minutes later, he cuts back inside and says, well, Melvin was truthful.
Checks out. His friends are in Denver at a party. Melvin spent the night.
So he's in Denver, Colorado, in his little red car, and not here, involved in a homicide.
With Melvin Small eliminated as a suspect, Kenda starts to rethink the case. If Chad Evans' alleged gang ties truly sparked the shooting, then why would he be the one who's still alive?
Chad had a very minor wound, but William was obviously assassinated.
It really leads investigators at this point to wonder if William is the target of the crime, and if so, why?
The person in the best position to know about William is Nora Evans. I need to speak to her.
Kenda ultimately tracks down Nora at the home of her friend, Pearl Duncan.
And I'm hoping this goes a little better than it.
It's you. Hey, Nora, it's that cop.
I know I'm Lieutenant Kenda. I know I'm the last person you probably want to talk to
I'm
right
gonna
now.
stop you. I'm sorry about the other night coming in.
She explained that she was just really angry that William lost his life. And I assured her that what's done is done, but I'm trying to help you. Can you help me?
So, what do you want to know?
How long have you known William?
A while, actually. He, and I went out for a while.
She described him as somebody who was very caring and very loving.
So William lived with you and your son?
No, he'd stay with us sometimes, and he helped us pay the bills when we needed him to.
She said William didn't have a steady job, but did a lot of part-time jobs here and there to help bring money into the house.
I asked Nora, what could these people armed with guns and wearing masks possibly be looking for in your place?
And you saw my place. I'm just scraping by. I don't know what they thought they were going to find.
And what about William? Why would they target him for money?
He didn't have a lot of money, but what he did have, he had in cash.
She advised that William liked to carry his money in a fanny pack around his waist, and that during the robbery, the robbers did take that fanny pack with them when they left.
Why would he carry money in a fanny pack?
It's just William, you know. Honestly, I don't think he had a bank account.
Do you know who might be responsible for this?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Absolutely.
And Nora drops a bombshell. And she said, well, I think it was William's father. What? William's father shot him in the back of the head? Now that's a new explanation of fatherly love that I've never heard. So here we are trying to get to the bottom of this case, and all of a sudden I have a witness who says not only she knows who did it, but she believes the person responsible is William Davis's father. Now that is very interesting.
Can you tell me about his father? What's his name?
Nora explains that William's father's name is Fred Watson, but everyone calls him Shoe. And he's known for his signature gold tooth.
But it's not his real father.
Who was it?
She then said it's a guy that William was really close to, and they referred to themselves as father and son.
Why would you think he'd be responsible for this?
He and Shu started butting heads a while back, and I think he might have just pushed Shu too far.
How so?
Nora explains that Shu had fallen on hard times, but William wouldn't allow him to stay at her. A few days ago, things went from bad to worse.
They had a small gathering of their friends, and Shu was invited.
Oh, yo, man, Shoot.
What's up, man?
I heard you lost your job, man. How you going?
Man, let me tell you something, bro. When it rains, it pours.
Think he gonna be all up in my house, freeloading all the time, not paying nothing.
William had quite a bit to drink, and he was teasing Shu and insulting him.
Man, I had to kick his bum ass out the other day, yo.
Son, really? That's how you gonna play me? Are you serious?
Come on, man. You gotta get money around here.
You better shut your mouth before you ready.
Get out of here, old man.
Shu turned to William and said, so that's how it's gonna be, huh?
No. This ain't no game.
You watch your step.
I think I'm playing.
These are people that have been unsuccessful in life, but they have their self-respect. Could this be the catalyst for murder? Absolutely.
And you're positive that Shu is one of the shooters?
The one guy had the same build as Shu.
You know where I could find Shu?
I don't know. I haven't seen him since that night.
All right, well, if you find out where he is, make sure you give me a call.
Of course.
Thank you.
After my conversations with Nora, there's one thing that doesn't add up to me at all. She says William Davis was carrying a money belt that had cash in it. Is William Davis engaged in some sort of criminal activity that causes him to need a money belt? Because odd jobs doesn't do it. I'm headed for my car at the curb, and a car pulls into the driveway, and a young, small female gets out.
The young woman is 18-year-old Lisa Evans, Nora's daughter.
Lieutenant Kenda.
I ask her, so you knew William Davis? Oh, I know him very well.
With Nora just inside the house, Kenda can sense Lisa is nervous talking to him out in the open.
Do you mind if I ask you a few questions? We can talk right now.
Sure.
She's certainly in a position to know something about William Davis.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this. What did William do for work?
I don't know, handyman stuff, I guess.
And I looked at her, and I know the look. She's a user.
Give me drugs on you?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Listen, I can bust you for possession right now. What was William's primary source of income? Don't tell me he was selling Girl Scout cookies.
She knows if I throw her in jail, she's not going to have any drugs.
He's in the game, you know?
It's pushing.
Maybe 2.5 keys a month.
He's moving 5 pounds of cocaine a month. That kind of cocaine produces a lot of money.
In an instant, Kenda is seeing William Davis's murder with a fresh pair of eyes.
Case come into focus. This is not a home invasion, it's a drug rip.
But that's not the only tip Lisa Evans offers up.
Lisa's pretty forthcoming and says, well, he had a really close partner in the drug business, and that partner was Paul Murphy.
The very same Paul Murphy that don't know nothing about nothing. Paul originally told me he was in the Army and he hadn't seen William Davis in weeks.
Lisa, who did this to Chad Morgan? You have to have some idea. I mean, they hit your own brother.
I know. Well, I was thinking, maybe it was Shu. Yeah, I mean, I was with him the other night, and he was talking about how William was disrespecting him.
So, we have a second person talking about Shu.
Where'd we find Shu?
He's at a house. Over there by those projects on the side.
Thank you. And Lisa, if you ever want to get clean, give me a call.
Kenda's goal now is to speak with Paul Murphy and Fred Watson, a.k.a. Shu, as soon as possible. 20 minutes later, Kenda and his team arrive at the house where Shu is allegedly holed up.
Police, open up!
What are you doing at my house?
The woman answers the door and she's typically uncooperative.
Man, we're conducting a homicide investigation. We need to speak to a Fred Watson. We know that he stays here.
You're out of your mind. Ain't no Fred here.
How about a Shu?
Who's looking for Shu?
Why don't you step out here, we can talk about it.
So a guy steps forward. He's a tall, older guy.
And what do you want to talk about? Can I help you with something?
And I say, well, yeah, Shu, as a matter of fact, you can. We've gone from the beginning of this case, where we didn't know why someone would invade Nora Evans' house, guns drawn, and shoot people, into a complicated tale of money and revenge. And now maybe we're down to the person responsible.
Down with Fred Watson, a.k.a. Shu, a man who appears to have no interest in playing games.
So y'all think I killed this boy because of a little squabble, a little argument he had? Really?
Shu's not aggressive, but he's not frightened either.
Let's stop beating around the bush. What do you want to know?
Why don't you start by telling us what was up with you and William Davis?
He was like a son to me. I mean, until he tried to embarrass me in front of everybody.
So is that why you killed him?
I just said he was like a son to me. If your son gets rude with you, at the end of the day, he's still your son, right?
He was adamant that he had nothing to do with this case.
You understand why we think you're involved in this, right? You told us yourself that you were mad at him, and we have several people who believe that you're the one who pulled the trigger.
Sounds like a setup.
Shu believes that somebody's trying to lay this off on him.
Set up by who?
Whoever's pointing a finger at me.
It's an interesting theory. We start out with a combative Nora, and then she points the finger at Shu. Maybe she just needed some time to get her story straight. At this point of this conversation, I have listened to Shu carefully. I've watched his body language. I've looked at his eyes. He comes across to me as the most honest person I've talked to in this entire investigation.
Okay, if you're not involved in this, who do you think would be?
D Sutton.
Shu explains that D. Sutton had been friends with William up until a couple of weeks ago, when D went out of town.
When he was gone, William Davis moved in with Dee's girlfriend.
So,
when D. Sutton returned, he found out that William's having an affair with this girl. And the fact that William Davis would do him like that, in his expression, was the worst crime anybody ever committed.
When you get information like this, you automatically think that's a big motive for murder.
We have the three pillars of murder all neatly together: money, sex, and revenge.
look, even William told me he was shacking up with D's woman, so I know it's legit.
I think you're being straight with me, so I'm gonna let you go. Before I do, why don't you tell us how we can find this D. Sutton character?
Man, that's not a problem. But I tell you right now, watch out. Because he's a tricky, mean son of a bitch, man. Careful. There you go, sir.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome. Have a good day, officers.
Kenda and Bjorndal formulate a plan to bring their new prime suspect to heel.
I traveled to Dee's home and set up surveillance. It's safe to assume from our perspective that...
Your biggest fear is, once they know that you target them as a suspect, they may flee.
We've got eyes on the suspect residence, and we've got a red car registered in his name out front.
10-4, stand by.
With D. Sutton's red vehicle parked in front of the house, the odds are he's at home. At that point, Kenda springs the trap.
Hello? This is Lieutenant Kenda with the Colorado Springs Police Department. I'd like to speak to a D. Sutton.
Speaking? What can I do for you?
I tell him I want him to come down to the police station to discuss an incident involving the death of William Davis. He says, well, I'll talk to you, but I'm not coming to the police station.
There's a diner over on Cascade.
All right, well, I know the place. I can be there in 30.
Okay. See you there.
Great, I'll see you there.
But instead of rushing out to the diner to meet D. Sutton, Kenda stays put.
We thought the safest way for all parties was just to set up a standard stop with uniformed patrol officers.
Suspect's on the move. Copy that. Go ahead and scoop him up.
So he leaves the house, and the officers let him get in his car. And I said, now stop him and bring him to me.
The team's plan goes off without a hitch.
D, thanks for stopping by. Have a seat.
Hope you're happy. Got me where you wanted.
You understand, right? What's important we talk?
He begins to tell me a story. He says he doesn't know anything about William Davis's death.
Well, what about William hooking up with your girlfriend? I'm sure you weren't too happy when you found that out.
He just blew that off. He said that wasn't a big deal.
She was just something to do when there was nothing to do.
But there is a note of anger in his voice and anger in his face. It was not a non-event to him.
Listen, man, I didn't do it. But if I wanted to, I'd have to stand in line.
Oh, yeah? Why is that?
D tells us that William has a lot of enemies, tends to rub people the wrong way.
He described William as the kind of person that stepped on everybody.
D has a point. I've drawn the same conclusions. Everyone I've talked to has lied to me.
D. Sutton may have the strongest motive of any of the possible suspects, but for Kenda, that's not enough proof he's the shooter.
What evidence do I have against him? Zip.
All right, you're free to go for now. Stay close to home.
We have the finger pointing going on here between all these different people. I'm getting the feeling this is bigger than just our two shooters. There are other people involved. I can feel it.
That's when Kenda decides to circle back to another person of interest, William's right-hand man, Paul Murphy.
We have a victim who is a less than stellar member of the community. Who does he have that's loyal to him? His associate, Paul Murphy.
He may have some information that can help us track these killers down.
In the Army. So my initial thought is, well, he'll be easy to find. We call Fort Carson CID.
Yes, this is Lieutenant Kenda from the Colorado Springs Police Department. I'm working a homicide investigation, and I could use your help locating a soldier by the name of Paul Murphy.
But Kenda's hopes are quickly dashed.
You're kidding.
I find this very crushing news that Paul Murphy was AWOL the whole time we were talking to him and has been discharged from the United States Army. They have no idea where he is.
Okay, thanks for your time. Bye.
Now what? Is Paul halfway to Mexico? Is Paul shot to death in a drainage ditch in eastern El Paso County? If I can't find Paul Murphy, I don't know if I'll be able to solve this case. This case has been a study in frustration. I've been lied to, shined on, given false suspects. I finally decide the key to this case is going to be William Davis's close associate in crime, Paul Murphy. The problem is, I can't find him.
With Paul Murphy AWOL from his post at Fort Carson, Kenda tries to track him down another way.
We put the word out on the street to our informants in the drug world to say that it was really important we talk to Paul Murphy.
Days go by without any leads.
We have no addresses. We have no known other associates. Murphy remains in the wind.
Finally, Kenda's luck changes.
Someone's here to see you.
Who is it?
Paul Murphy just walked in.
Really? Send him in.
Yes, sir.
Instead of us having to chase him, he has appeared out of nowhere. Perfect.
Paul, close the door and have a seat.
Paul looks as if he wants to get something off his chest. He is an emotional wreck, and this murder is what made
your business relationship with William.
I wasn't honest in the beginning because I was scared of what he might do. I need you to protect me.
Protect you from who?
The person who shot William. D-Sutton.
Well, that's the name I've heard before.
Paul explains that 2 days before the murder, Nora Evans had a small get-together at her house, and the subject turned to William Davis.
This guy's out of control. He cheated on you with my chick. He's always disrespecting Shoot. He's pushing around Chad and Paul.
Nora is present. Murphy is there. D. Sutton is there. Chad Evans is there. They all agree that Davis treats everybody awfully.
But what can we do about it? He's got all the money and the drugs.
I'll tell you what we can do about it. Let's tie him up, put a gun in his face, and take all his money.
Rob him? You're out of your mind.
Hey, we gotta take this guy down a notch.
All right, fine. But don't hurt him, okay?
Okay.
They wanted to put him in his place. They wanted him to realize that he's not the big guy.
And now it all makes sense. All of my witnesses were trying to cover their own tracks.
Okay, so you and Nora wanted revenge for him cheating and humiliating everyone. Wasn't it for you?
Murphy says he's promised crack cocaine, which he's addicted to, and further he's in for a cut of the money they take.
Paul claims that D. Sutton was the crime's mastermind. According to D, he would bring along a friend named Alonzo Hankins. The two of them would be the robbers, and everyone else needed to be present so William wouldn't suspect they were in on it.
But we gotta make this look as real as possible. I need y'all on point.
Paul tells Kenda that on the night of the murder, he stopped by Nora's house with William, just as D instructed.
When they arrive at Nora's house, Murphy slips away and uses his cell phone and calls D. Sutton.
Yeah, I get it.
And there's a knock.
As soon as Paul opened the door, Dee and Alonzo entered, masks on and guns drawn.
They pushed their way into the house just like it had been planned.
You too. Hey, yo, get out. Get out. Where the money at? You don't have no money.
Dee was yelling at William about where's the money, where's it at?
Hold on. Here, that's it. Give me this. Yeah, see what's in it. That's it. That's all I got.
Chad was been pushed to the ground. That was part of the plan.
Hey, check on the ground. Tie them up, man. Tie them up. How you back, man? Chill, man.
They tie everybody up. And Murphy thinks everything's going according to plan. But then he notices that Dee Sutton is getting out of control.
Where the drugs at? We don't got no drugs, man. Where the drugs? You know you got the drugs. I don't know what you're talking about. Somebody gonna die tonight.
He was screaming. They wanted more. They wanted the drugs.
He tore up the house. He didn't find any drugs. William wouldn't tell him where the stuff was.
Murphy says he's never seen Dee Sutton that angry.
No, what the drugs? I don't know what you're talking about. You don't know?
Dee actually hit William in the back of the head with the butt of his pistol.
But despite Dee's escalating rage, William still asserts he knows nothing about the drugs that Dee's demanding he fork over.
Paul says Dee Sutton reaches his boiling point.
I gave it to you, man. Chill.
He puts his gun directly to the back of William Davis's head.
Come on, man. You gotta do that. Not so tough now.
Dee pulls the trigger and puts a bullet into his brain.
Hey, what the hell?
Now, shooting is contagious. Alonzo Hankins doesn't know what's going on. So he shoots the guy he has control of, which is Chad Evans.
Stop what you're doing. Chad! Jesus, North. You okay?
So we have two shots, one quickly following the other, one out of confusion and one with intent.
Come on, get home.
Murphy runs out for help.
If Paul Murphy's statement is to be believed, then nearly every witness Kenda spoke with has been spinning a web of lies.
That is incredible. Everybody's a player. The only true victim here is William Davis, and he's dead.
Thanks, Paul. We're going to have to book you for first-degree murder.
What? No.
Lieutenant Kenda, can I get a booking officer up to my office, please?
Even though Dee's the one that pulled the trigger and killed William, everybody involved in setting up that robbery is guilty of a felony murder in the state of Colorado.
Over the next few days, Kenda's team tracks down Nora Evans, her son Chad, Dee Sutton, and Alonzo Hankins. They are each charged with first-degree murder. But even with all four of them in custody, Kenda knows that getting across-the-board convictions is far from a done deal.
None of these people confess. Everybody either has a story of denial or no story whatsoever. The very first thing Paul Murphy does is withdraw his confession. Says he was lying when he said all that. Murphy's acquitted of all charges.
And with that, the district attorney has no choice but to dismiss the charges against the remaining defendants.
So Nora Evans, Chad Evans, Dee Sutton, and Alonzo Hankins walk away.
It's a wildly unsatisfying conclusion to a bizarre case.
This is the nature of homicide investigation. Your absolute best effort, weeks and months of work, comes not. Smoke in the air.
Most people look at these cases of they got what they deserve. Nobody deserves that. No one.
Do I disapprove of William Davis's life? Of course I do. Is he a criminal? Absolutely. But he's also the victim of a homicide. And nobody gets to play God. Simple enough.